we're going to be going through the 5 tips in Diablo 4 you need to know before starting your alt. Now, what's incredible about Diablo 4, there is some cool things you can do with your main character, the character you built farther, before you start your secondary character. Now, this guide is both for any starting an alt now, or if you've already started an alt, these will still come into effect. And so I just want to go through them so you have it. And even one thing that really irritated the crap out of me, I wish I wouldn't have done, and I want to make sure that you don't. And so we're going to be going through each of the 5 things. I'm going to actually jump into the game and show you live where we track those, where do we find out how far we are along the way, and do we have it in place. So when we start our alt, we can move faster, we can enjoy the crap of the game, we can just get on to building that class and feeling what that class is about, because that is one of the most enjoyable things to do in Diablo, is kind of check out the different classes and see how different the gameplay actually is. So let's get at it, guys. Okay, so we're going to jump in here with probably the character that I've done most of the end game stuff for. It's not even my highest level, but it is my first character, so let's jump in. I want to show you guys directly in the game kind of the things I'm talking about, just to make sure that you know where to see if they're done. This may be a little beginner, but there is stuff in here no matter what your level. If you haven't done some of these things, I will give you a lot of reasons why, and even you can go back, even if you've already started your alt, you can still go back and make these changes. So the first thing that we are going to be looking at, and the most important, is renown. You've probably heard a lot about it. There is a ton going on in the community just saying how much of a pain this was. But this is where, if you're going to be someone that plays multiple alts, and you do this, you get a major advantage in the game. Plus, it's one of the few things that you kind of or one of the things you have to do in endgame. Not few things, but one of the things you have to do in endgame to really min-max your character, to really push it to the level. So it's not only helping you push to that higher level and that higher strength, but any new character gets a lot of benefits from it. So the first thing that we get from renown, completing renown with the main character, is for all of our characters. You see this little like multiple heads down here, unlocks for all characters on the realm. So in each of the areas that we are in, we have these 5 categories. You get this bottom one skill, 1 potion, 1 skill, 80 max obels, who gives a crap, and 4 paragon points. Paragon points aren't going to play in effect with your alt until level 50. So still valuable, that when you hit 50, you get to actually fill out quite a bit of the Paragon, like the first Paragon card, which makes you crazy powerful. But these are the skill points we want, because this you get at level 0 or level 1. You get this skill point and this skill point for each of these areas. Now, what I do with that, one of the reasons that I make sure I complete all of this, is I do want to not have to come back and figure out the Paragon points too. Might as well, while I have my more powerful character that is most of the way through, just go clean through some of these things. That way I can get these things. So how do you do renown? It's, they break it down by area. They tell you the things you can do. But I'm looking for these skill points because if I start a new character with these already in place, not only can I get my basic skill, which you don't have to put a lot of points in the basic skill at first. You get your basic skill. You can do the add-on so it's stronger, the branch, one of the branches. And you get 5 points and the branches into your core. Those points make you absolutely incredibly unstoppable. And some of those things we're going to see actually do a lot more. So how do we get renowned? Well, we complete these activities. We play waypoints, strongholds, side quests, areas discovered, so you can kind of check out all the map, side dungeons, and eventually it builds up enough points to get all the way. You've probably seen this already. You've probably gotten some of the early ones if you've been playing for a while. So that is what you want to do to get renown. Okay, so now that we're looking at renown, there is the next couple things actually play well into getting renown. And these are things that are absolutely incredibly powerful for your beginning character. And I'm going to start with Altars of Lilith. All your characters get the bonuses of whatever the altar gives. And it's usually a point or 2 for the different attributes, strength, intelligence, whatnot. So incredibly great stats right out the chute if you get all these. This is probably more of the pain than I'd like to admit, but get a map, kind of follow through, put something entertaining on, watch a show, because it's really just kind of jumping on your horse and moving to the next area. So you want to at least be 30 plus to have the horse to start unlocking renown. But you can start this at any time. Just when you're ready to go to your alt, you want a lot of this done. While you're doing the Altars of Lilith, because you are running all over the freaking place, is areas discovered. If you notice you still have areas that are grayed out, have the fog of war, knock those off. You can see in the number, it tells you literally how many you have of the total. So I'm still missing 2 here, but it's good to do together because they also gives you renown. So it keeps building to this. So these are things, I don't wait till I complete all the renown because this is going to help me do that a lot. There's a lot of points in these. So there's 28 of these, each gives 10 renown. Areas you find each give 5. This does add up quickly to get the large amount of renown you need for each area. So might as well grab these at the same time. So that's one down. We're going to do renown. We're going to do altars of Lilith, because altars of Lilith help us get the renown relatively fast. We're going to do some of that map stuff. What else can we do? A really important thing that you can do in each of these areas is complete dungeons. So the more dungeons, these side dungeons that you do in that, the more, the more points you get to your renown. Now, what I'd like to do in this is, if I know the alt I'm going to choose, if I'm going to choose a necromancer, or I'm going to choose a barbarian, or whatever I'm choosing, I want to look for the side dungeons in that region that have codex of power that I'm looking for. So how do we do that? So if you go to collections, you can see the codex of power, and you can see at the bottom of the list ones that you are missing. So they will also tell you, so in this one, we got the Skinwalkers, Druid. I don't have this for Druid yet, but that's what it's for, and it's not yet unlocked. If I click on that, I can actually see where it pins. So now if I go back to my map, it actually pinned the location. It'll show me it's way the hell over here. So if I start just like kind of paying attention to codex of power I want for my next class, I can choose those dungeons. And so if I'm doing this early enough and I haven't maxed out any of the renown for any of the areas, this is a really nice way. You just look up the codex that you think you're going to want for that build, maybe look up a build guide and see what's going on, and then come in and complete that. So when you get to a place, I think it's around level 20, I'd say level 20 to 25, somewhere in there, suddenly codex turn on, you'll be able to go back to Kovashad and actually get them. So this is, if you unlock these, then you'll have the ability to imprint onto your weapons early. So you'll be able, as soon as you can imprint, you'll be able to put like some of the great aspects on your build that allow you to just go from good to freaking incredible. It's an amazing speed jump. You just start ripping through the content like crazy. The biggest issue is going to be just how expensive it can get. Early on, it's cheaper to put aspects on, even in the Codex of Power. But you are moving through stuff so fast. At this rate, you're going to be crazy powerful. You have tons of skill points. You're going to be leveling up a lot. So just think a little bit ahead of time of putting it on the piece you're going to keep the longest. If it's something that you want, is really important. I usually focus on 1 or 2 aspects, and those are the ones I keep putting on as I go through. So that will help you just be incredibly strong and start to test out the actual build combinations that require certain aspects. There is a lot of the build guides, if you look at them, will actually tell you the early codex that you need to get. This should help you get through. By the time you're done with altars, by the time you're in map locations, you're doing dungeons, so that's just to help you get renown. But that will help you get a lot of the chunk out of the renown while you're doing things that are other things that are advantageous for your next character. So I just wanted to put a note in here just in case it's unclear. I'm not saying these are the only way. The things that help you with your alt I'm trying to talk about. Some of them cover renown, but we can quickly go over it. These are the things that help renown. So this is the list. So when you come in here by area, it'll tell you what you have completed of what. If you finish, I've already got the waypoints. I don't have to worry about that. Strongholds, I already did. Strongholds is pretty good. Like this is 100 points. So if you're really trying to whip through these things, this is where you come and just check. Hey, what else can I do for my renown? What else can I go after until I get full points? See, I'm not even done with everything. You don't have to do everything. I'm not even done with most of it, and I still have all 5 unlocked for this area, and you'll see that in every area. But this is where I come to check again, just back to that number 1, going after and making sure you're getting your renown complete. Okay, so I had mentioned when we were talking about codex that sometimes it gets expensive. You're trying to get every piece, every LU drop, or every piece to have exactly what you want as far as a codex for what will eventually be your end game build, possibly. That can get really expensive. But money is a lot easier to get at the end, and that's the next thing we want to do. Since the codex can be expensive, well, you could also just load up on a lot of gold, because the ability to get millions of gold at the end, while everything at the beginning is super cheap, you can get pretty much to level 50 on, like, I think I would have to guess like 4 or 5 million. If you have that stockpiled, you can do more. Like if you had 10, then hit every piece. What the hell? But it doesn't start to get really expensive until you start to break that level 50, get in the world tier 3. So resources, obviously the stuff that breaks when you break down the legendaries, when you break down, the number 1 thing is probably the veiled crystals. That seems to be running out all the time. And if you guys don't know, I mean, this is probably most people will, but in materials and stats, you can actually come over here and you can see your materials and you can look at what you have. So you can see how low you are on something. So for the longest time, I had an issue with veiled crystals until I started running Nightmare Dungeons like crazy and just breaking everything down for a bit. So now I don't even break anything down. I just sell it all off because I'm more likely to use the money for rerolls. But you can look at here. The things that are going to really come up are going to be these veiled crystals, probably the number one thing you run out of. The other thing is like early on in endgame, it's easy to get because you get more legendary drops. Some of these things that drop only from sacred or ancestral. Oh, that's Forgotten Souls. But like the coiling ward. So when you break down a legendary armor, you get this. When you break down legendary jewelry, you get this. The baleful fragment. When you break down a legendary weapon, those are the ones that can be really expensive. Now I have tons, so I don't have to worry. I usually need a couple to build or to like switch out or upgrade armor items. So when I'm starting my alts, what I use these resources for, I like to have them stockpiled here. So like for veiled crystals or like you could probably get this about 500 and you're probably good. Any of these other sigils that are the breakdowns either from the armor, from the weapons, or from the jewelry, those you can probably get, 100 to 150 and you'll probably be fine for most alts and spares unless you're getting crazy with it. But the way I do it, just to make sure, like the way I'm using resources for my alt is I generally will do more to level up the weapon. There's a lot of recommendations in the builds. If you don't have money from an end game main, yeah, it can get really expensive and eat up all your cash. But I know I'm going to switch out my main, but I like leveling up the main because that damage number is the attack power number here, and the damage coming off of this usually affects my abilities. So that allows me to be far stronger, far quicker. So I'll spend points to level up this, but I won't level pretty much anything else. I'll make sure, and I'll pick, like I said earlier, I'll pick up like the aspects. When I was doing the codex, I'll pick up one or two aspects that I think that are core for the build, ones that like allow it to like synergize. Like if I'm playing rogue, I'm going to want those twisting blades on most of my builds. And so I'm going to want to find the thing that like it causes it to swirl around me and kill everything in sight. So that's always like, where do I have that? I can show you that. The Blade Dancer right there. So twisting blades orbit for a short period of time after they return to you dealing. So this just makes it incredible. And you just, not only if you're in the middle of a mob, if you hit something back and you run, you start clearing everything around you too. So it adds a lot of protection early on. So just things like that. So if you know your build you're going for, you can think about those aspects, or just pick two aspects that you really want to focus on and where you want to put them on. So that is it. So that's the resources we want. We also want to make sure we have the gold. And those are the four main that I think as far as resource and things that are going to carry over directly. Now we've gone through Renown. We got a lot of carryover for what you do. We've got the ability to get resources significantly easier in endgame than it is to get in beginner game, but we can use them to build and do cool crap really early, maybe even be wasteful in our money, instead of always worried about having the resources do what we want. One note, you can always jump back, go to your main, build up again. So what I like about this, it doesn't matter if you've started an alt already, you're level 20, you're level 30, I don't care, level 50. If you got a character that's far at a much higher level, it's easier to get the resources you need. So you can jump on that alt. It makes the game more exciting because you're also switching between play styles. It kind of mixes it up a bit. Anything that kind of makes it dynamic always adds a little bit more enjoyment to the game. And so that's always a good thing to do. But you can do this at any time. But if you do this before you start, you got all that renown, you got all those extra points, you're just kind of breeze through. You can just stay on your main and just kind of crush through. One thing that comes into play relatively quickly, it's making sure there is some bag space. There's been times where I've gone through the build and I only had my main, so that's all I had to worry about. So I just threw everything in here. You want probably at least like 2 rows. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You just like get 2 rows for your character, because from like basically 1 to 50, it's not going to be an issue. 50 to 70, when you start getting regular legendary rolls and you're really pushing to build, your full end game build. Yeah, then you're gonna need more space. But at first, you just really need the 2 rows that'll take you all the way to 50. Easily, so you're just putting, yellows that you think you can use, but have the space available. It's really annoying to come in and like you really need to put it away, but you're holding it in your bag because you don't have any place to put it. Now, as an advanced tip for this in particular, one of the favorite things I can do, I'm actually even using right now, I'm using my original main as a bag, but you can drop in the stuff. So this is I took the legendaries and some of the items that was really just for this build, and I took it out of my inventory and just held it with him because I wasn't going to play, or her, held it with her for a while so that I don't have to worry about the space right now. But I come back, it's all here. I'm going to have to clear up space later. Now, you can do this without making it your main. And so one of the things that a lot of people do if they play Diablo for a while is they use all bags. And so when I leave the game, you'll see as I come down on my list here, as soon as this loads over, I have bag 1 and bag 2. That is exactly what they are. I just load in crap. So if you have a lot of stuff and you want to keep on to it, or you don't want to do heavy sorting on your main, or maybe you have 2 mains already, or 2 characters that are in the end game, then you might want to use this bag technique to clear out some of that chest and just have it held. Just generally remember what's in them. It always helps. So if you're like, oh, I'm looking for this, I swear I had it, you'll remember, oh yeah, I put it in one of the bags. So that is the 5 main tips, but there is more because there's things that I wish I would have known that weren't very clear when I was switching from my main to my alt that I'd like to make sure that you are aware of. So the 5 that we have right now are renowned. We're going to go after those altars of Lilith in the map. We're going to go after the codex of power. We're going to build up the resources, and we're going to make sure we have some cleared space for our bag so it's easy sailing. One of the 2 things that I think is really important to understand that you may not expect when you jump onto your alt is the first thing is that the map that you've cleared, you spend all that time getting the renown and getting extra points and clearing that up, is not fully available to you in the game. And this is even if you choose adventure mode where you're going to skip the storyline. Either way, like you can do either the storyline obviously will force you to progress through the storyline, only unlock certain things when it's relative to the story. But you can jump into adventure mode and get access to everything. But what they've done is they actually cover up the map again, and they give you just the main city waypoints. So you have to rediscover all of the waypoints. Now, there is rumors that this is supposed to change, I think, in season 1. So hopefully, if you're watching this later, a lot of this is still relevant. This might have changed, but it's good to know that you jump in. So you may have to go and unlock those. You may have to wander around and find them again, even though they're not helping you with renown overall. Now, the other thing, and this was the irritating thing, this is the thing I wish I would have known because it really pissed me off at the time. So I got a piece that was perfect roll for what I was trying to build. It had added to my main core skill. It was just an incredible bracer, and I wanted to add a codex to it. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll have to wait for that codex, or I'll have to wait for the aspect, because I didn't want the lowest roll on it. I wanted something that would drop on a normal legendary. So I kept seeing it wasn't dropping. And then I'm going through my bag, and I notice that in my bag, I don't even know if I have any more, but in my bag, I had stored some aspects. And one of the aspects was one I needed. I was like, holy crap, I already get it. I guess I broke it down, like thinking I was going to use it. I don't know why I didn't keep it in my normal aspects for this build, but I didn't. So then what I ended up doing is I took it and I was like, oh, this is a perfect roll. I put it on that piece and it immediately jumped the level from, I think I was at like 46. And it jumped the level to level 80, which was the level of the aspect of the item I pulled it off of. I didn't think about it. So there is crossover aspects that you can pull off of items that work for all classes. And the codex have codex that work for all classes as well. But by doing that, I immediately shot up. So now this perfect roll, amazing piece, is now unusable. I have to wait till I'm level 80, and I guarantee by level 80, I'm not going to care, because at level 80, I should be rolling something at 800 plus is what I'm really looking for, with the same stats, obviously, but suddenly useless. So it took this item I was so excited to have and push it in. So don't make that same mistake. Whatever level the aspect is. So if I was to take something that's a level 20 item and put an aspect level 42, like this one here, and I was going to put that on it, it would immediately jump up to the level of the aspect. So that would lock it out for my use until then. So check out this video where I react to DM's video where he breaks down a tier list of the classes, but not based on the most powerful, but on the most enjoyment.